Night blanketed the forest planet of Aaris, casting deep shadows across the foliage. The only light came from a tiny figure staggering through the undergrowth, its faintly bioluminescent skin flickering like a failing beacon. The young alien, known as a Khir'Aan, was barely more than a child, its slender limbs trembling as it forced itself to continue forward. Its mind was a chaotic storm of fear and grief, haunted by the massacre it had narrowly escaped. Its people had been mercilessly hunted down by the coalition known as the Hierarchy, a powerful alliance of species obsessed with genetic purity. The Khir'Aan's culture, known for its empathy and telepathic resonance, had been deemed an abomination. Now this child was the last of its kind. The child stumbled, clutching at its injured side, a luminous liquid seeping from a gash along its ribs. Its breaths were shallow, the alien song of its life force dimming. Yet, it moved forward, knowing instinctively that stopping meant certain death. It had no real understanding of who or what humans were, but it had picked up faint energy signals from their outpost. Desperation forced it toward them, praying against all odds that these unknown creatures might offer sanctuary. Meanwhile, at the human outpost nestled on the edge of the dense forest, Lieutenant Samantha Reyes moved through the usual nightly routines with her small crew. Her team, stationed far from any significant colonies, had spent years on this remote planet with little to show for it beyond routine maintenance and practice drills. Despite the monotony, Samantha's sense of duty never wavered. She was a seasoned officer with an ironclad resolve, but she often found herself craving a deeper purpose. That evening, as she wrapped up another mundane report, a strange signal caught her attention. The base sensors had picked up an energy spike nearby, one that didn't match any known fauna on the planet. Curious, she alerted her team, and they gathered to investigate. The initial scans showed something small, alive, and emitting a faint glow, moving toward their outpost. Armed with weapons and guided by years of training, Samantha led a small squad into the forest. They moved cautiously, unsure of what they'd find. Samantha's heart raced, not with fear but with a fierce curiosity that hinted at something new and important waiting just beyond the shadows. The crew had no way of knowing that their lives, and perhaps even humanity's place in the galaxy, were about to change forever. The humans moved deeper into the forest, flashlights slicing through the darkness as they followed the signal. After an hour of tracking, they found it. A small, luminescent figure curled up at the base of a tree, shivering in pain and exhaustion. Samantha held up her hand, signaling her crew to halt. She approached slowly, her gaze fixed on the creature before her. It looked fragile, with slender limbs and soft, glowing skin that pulsed faintly, like a dying star. The child's eyes opened slightly, and in that moment, Samantha saw not an alien, but a terrified child, one who had lost everything. She knelt down, moving with deliberate gentleness as the alien stared up at her, its eyes wide with fear. The creature emitted a series of melodic hums and clicks, a language that seemed more like music than speech. Samantha motioned for her team to lower their weapons, sensing that this was no enemy. She activated her communicator, its translation software struggling to keep up with the complex sounds. As a trained xenolinguist, she began to parse out meaning from the alien's sounds. Over the next few hours, she managed to communicate rudimentary concepts: safety, help, refuge. The child's name, she discovered, was something unpronounceable in human tongues, so they named it Echo for its musical speech. As they tended to Echo's wounds, more details emerged. Through gestures, images, and broken phrases, they learned of the brutal force that had hunted its people to extinction. The Hierarchy, a coalition of xenophobic alien species, had exterminated the Khir'Aan for their genetic uniqueness. The Khir'Aan had been viewed as genetic anomalies, capable of telepathy, empathy, and emotional resonance, a form of communication that the Hierarchy deemed unnatural. For this, they were marked for death. When Samantha's superiors caught wind of the situation, they ordered her to abandon the child, fearing the consequences of engaging with the Hierarchy. Samantha felt her anger flare. She had never been one to abandon the vulnerable, especially not a child who had been through so much. Against orders, she vowed to protect Echo, no matter the cost. Her team hesitated, aware that disobeying direct orders was a severe offense. But one by one, they sided with her, rallying to her defiant stand. Together, they resolved to protect Echo, knowing full well that they were now targets for the hierarchy's wrath. In that moment, they became more than soldiers. They became guardians, protectors of a life that the galaxy had forsaken. News of the Khir'Aan child's survival soon reached the hierarchy, and a swift response was ordered. Xyrel, a ruthless commander infamous for his brutal efficiency, was dispatched to ensure the extinction was complete. Xyrel's forces were equipped with advanced tracking equipment and weapons, along with genetic sensors capable of detecting Khir'Aan DNA. The humans' outpost, built for research and low-risk activities, was woefully unprepared for such a formidable adversary. Meanwhile, life at the outpost changed as Echo became part of their daily existence. Initially frightened and withdrawn, Echo gradually began to trust the humans, especially Samantha, who had become like a mother figure. The child's empathic abilities began to surface, mirroring emotions it sensed within the humans. It was a haunting and beautiful phenomenon. Echo would hum soft melodies in response to the humans' feelings, translating their emotional states into an alien form of music. One night, Echo revealed something extraordinary. Using its bioluminescent abilities, it projected a holographic memory, casting scenes from its homeworld into the dim light of the outpost. The crew watched in awe as they glimpsed a world of harmony, a society where compassion and empathy had shaped every aspect of life. They saw families, communities bound not by spoken words, but by shared emotions and telepathic resonance. The beauty of the Khir'Aan world, now lost forever, moved the humans to tears. The bond between Echo and the crew deepened, and they grew fiercely protective of the child. Knowing that they were all that stood between Echo and annihilation, they dedicated themselves to preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Samantha was determined. She wouldn't let the hierarchy claim this last piece of a fallen world. With each passing day, the sense of dread grew as the hierarchy's forces drew closer. The humans adapted their outpost as best they could, rigging makeshift traps, fortifying defenses, and preparing for a confrontation that could mean their end. The tension was thick, yet a sense of camaraderie and resolve held them together. They were no longer just crew members. They were a family, united by a shared mission. When Xyrel's forces arrived, they came like a storm, descending on the outpost with ruthless precision. The humans were outmatched, their weaponry primitive compared to the hierarchy's advanced arsenal. The initial clash was brutal, and they lost several of their own. But the humans fought with relentless determination, utilizing guerrilla tactics, traps, and sheer ingenuity to hold their ground. Even as they suffered casualties, they refused to give in. In the midst of the chaos, Echo continued to sing. Its melodies, now laced with sorrow and defiance, echoed through the walls of the outpost, filling the humans with a fierce resolve. As they fought, they could feel Echo's emotions resonating with theirs, a raw blend of fear, hope, and unwavering courage. In a brief lull between attacks, Echo projected another memory. This time, it showed the Khir'Aan's last stand, a futile attempt to defend their world against the hierarchy's onslaught. The image of its people, standing side by side in the face of death, stirred something deep within the humans. They vowed to make this stand in honor of the Khir'Aan, to protect the last living memory of a world lost to hate. With their numbers dwindling, Samantha knew they had one final chance to escape. She devised a risky plan, using Echo's holographic abilities to create a false signal that would lure Xyrel's forces into a trap. It was a desperate gamble, but they had no other options. The plan worked, partially. Xyrel's soldiers fell into the trap, and the humans managed to inflict heavy losses, temporarily forcing the attackers to retreat. But Xyrel himself escaped, and soon he confronted Samantha and Echo in a final, fateful showdown. In the dim light of the battered outpost, Xyrel sneered at Samantha, mocking humanity's compassion as a weakness. He derided their foolish attachment to a creature that wasn't even their own. But Samantha met his gaze with steely resolve, telling him that humanity's strength lay precisely in their willingness to protect others, to stand together against oppression. The fight was fierce, a brutal clash of wills and weapons. Samantha and her team fought with everything they had, using every last bit of strength and strategy. In the end, they managed to outwit Xyrel, delivering a final blow that left him defeated. As he fell, he looked up at Samantha with a mixture of shock and realization. He had underestimated the strength of humanity's unity, their willingness to fight for a child who wasn't even their own. With their outpost reduced to rubble, Samantha and her remaining crew commandeered one of the hierarchy's vessels. Exhausted yet triumphant, they fled into the stars, carrying Echo with them. As they left, Samantha sent out a message across the galaxy, a declaration that humanity would no longer turn a blind eye to the suffering of the innocent. In the quiet of the ship, Echo hummed a gentle, hopeful song. Its first human words echoed through the silence. "We survived together." The crew, though battered and grieving, found solace in those words. They knew they had gained more than a mission. They had found a purpose, to stand as protectors in a galaxy that had lost its compassion. Together, they soared into the stars, prepared for the battles ahead. They would no longer stand idly by. They would fight, not just for Echo, but for any who faced the cruelty of the hierarchy. The galaxy lay before them, vast and perilous, but Samantha and her crew were ready. They had become more than soldiers. They were the last guardians, humanity's vanguard against the darkness, ensuring that no innocent life would face extinction alone. With their defiance blazing like a beacon, they set out, carrying hope and unity into a galaxy that desperately needed both. As the crew and Echo escape into the vastness of space, they take a moment to absorb the magnitude of what they've survived. Each of them, battle-worn and exhausted, looks around the ship at their makeshift family, each one changed, bonded by a mission that transcended orders or duty. In the cockpit, Samantha sends out her final message to the galaxy, knowing it could be intercepted by allies or enemies alike. She speaks from the heart, addressing all who might be listening, her voice steady and resolute. "This is Lieutenant Samantha Reyes of the Terran Outpost 49. We stand with the lost, the hunted, and the forsaken. Humanity will not stand by while the innocent are hunted to extinction. We are here, we are ready, and we will fight." Her words echo through the silent ship as the crew listens, feeling the weight and purpose of their new path. The message serves as both a beacon and a warning, a call for alliances and a promise of protection. In this moment, Samantha realizes they are no longer just an outpost crew. They are pioneers, defenders in a galaxy that desperately needs hope and unity. As they sail into the unknown, Echo hums a soft, hopeful melody, its song filled with gratitude and a cautious optimism. Slowly, almost like a shy gift, Echo begins to speak more human words, mirroring phrases and sentiments it's picked up from its human family. Its first, halting sentence, spoken with wide, gleaming eyes, brings a tear to Samantha's eye. "We survive together." The crew shares a quiet, solemn moment reflecting on what lies ahead. They know they are now fugitives, outcasts for defying the hierarchy, but they also know they are not alone. With Echo by their side, they carry the memory of the Khir'Aan people, and their purpose has become something bigger than survival. They have a mission: to gather allies, to stand against oppression, and to remind the galaxy that compassion is not a weakness, but humanity's greatest strength. In the final scenes, Samantha looks out into the endless stars, her heart resolute. The crew stands beside her, bound by their choice to protect life, no matter the cost. The last image is one of Echo nestling close to Samantha, humming a gentle song, a promise, a hope, a memory of those who were lost but whose legacy now lives on through those who dared to protect it. Together, they move forward into a new chapter where they will be guardians and champions for those who have none. As the ship fades into the distance, the galaxy seems a little less dark, illuminated by the defiant spirit of humanity and the bright, hopeful song of a survivor.